Based on my last video, I got a lot of requests to compare the FX9 against my red Komodo. So here it is, and I was pretty surprised about the upcoming results. Hi guys, my name is Paul, I'm a German-based cinematographer, and this channel is all about filmmaking, gear reviews, but also DaVinci Resolve tutorials. So if that's something that you're interested in, consider subscribe, that really helps the channel. So liking, subscribing is free and it helps me, so thanks. So on my last video I had the FX9 here for quite a while and I was testing it, and then I thought, hey, maybe just comparing it to the red Komodo because I own that camera. Normally I do very in-depth review about low light and everything and all that stuff, but I didn't have too much time with the cameras, so I just focused on the most important thing, which is image quality and color science. And then I also had a friend who loaned me his C70, so I also put that into the mix, but more on that later. So when I was reviewing the footage, I had like an old memory coming up into my head, because the first cinema camera that I owned and used was the Sony FX9 Mark I, and then I completely ditched Sony from that on. And when I used that camera, it had like everything in the scene was totally green, apart from the skin, which was like reddish and magenta. So the color science was awful. Now I have to say that the color science has very much improved on the Sony, but what I've seen here on altogether in all these images, it still has kind of a green cast, and also the skin tone always looked like a little bit reddish. And I also find that it almost was too oversaturated sometimes on the reds. So when I had like traffic lights and sun flares and sunset, a red building and something like that, everything, it seems a little bit more oversaturated on the red side. But I always also had like this green cast in the image. I just did a CSD to Rec 709, and then I just tweaked the white balance to have a normalized image. I also used a color chart to check on that. So what you see is basically what the image should look like basically. And yeah, the Komodo I think looks much more natural. Also color science is very subjective, I know, but from my taste it looked much more natural in all these circumstances. In terms of dynamic range, I found both of them pretty equal, but I have to say that I find like the Komodo has a slightly nicer highlight roll-off than the Sony. Also due to the green color cast, the sky always of the Sony looked like a little bit teal, so totally unnatural, and it was not even close to what I've seen in real life. So what you saw on the Komodo was actually much more true to life. I also have to say that when I put them side by side with the C70, I found that out of the three, the C70 has, from my experiences, the most natural, neutral image, which I really liked. And I also found I used the Komodo and the C70 together quite a bit, and they match pretty easily actually. But I found it much harder to match either of these cameras to the Sony due to the green cast and also like the slightly off skin tones. And also by comparing those three, I saw like that the image of the Komodo is the most detailed one. I'm not talking too much about sharpness. It also was the sharpest, but it also looked the most detailed. So it had a lot of skin detail and everything like that. It just looks clean and detailed. One thing that is really important to me as a filmmaker is also great color science, because that always gives you a nice reproduction of what you saw on set, and is also a great starting point for further color grading. And I don't feel like that I have that in the Sony FX9. Sure, you can manipulate the footage to whatever you want to in post, that's not the question here, but also like true color science, and also when you're shooting a lot of low light and with colorful RGB lights, a good color science really pays off, I think. So, and therefore I mostly prefer on shooting on the red, because I just simply love the color science and what I'm able to do with the camera. and I didn't find myself too much into the Sony system. My second choice will always be the C70 because I think it's a great camera, and I thought maybe would be great to see how all of these three cameras to see here. And I'm personally very curious to hear about your opinion, so please make sure to drop them down in the comments below and we can further discuss it there. And if you like this video, please like, thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and see you in my very next one. Cheers guys.